New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom.
Rock and roll.
Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's.
Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hasba Cutie.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Van Facebook page, website, and mobile app.
Good evening, dear listeners of Radio Van.
Welcome to the Great American
Weekend.
And we're here with Hasba Cutie.
What?
Ina MK.
Yeah, and Master Steve.
Welcome.
And tonight's theme is patriotism, and we'd like to remind you that later we are going to welcome here in a studio Grammy-winning musician of Armenian descent, an avant-garde folk artist, singer, multi-instrumentalist, Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
What an artist!
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're excited because it's gonna be something special.
Every time that I've seen Arto play, every time I've met with him and spoke with him, it's been mind-boggling in so not to say it in so many words, because there's something always kind of challenging the status quo in the way that he rolls. I like that a lot.
He does make your brain work, doesn't he?
Definitely.
And so also...
So, yeah, I've never really gotten a chance to talk to him, so this will be the first time, but I have seen him perform quite a few times. It's always enjoyable, whether it's with the Navy Band or with other configurations. It's interesting.
Yeah, he's going to be alone tonight. And also, we would like to say happy birthday to Arto's producer.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Yeah, he's going to
Do we
come
have a happy birthday button? Or like a yay button? Yeah.
We still have the applause button. So.
We do?
I'll sing happy birthday, but you have to turn off the microphone first.
So happy birthday, Artak. We are looking forward to welcoming you guys here. And let's get back to our theme. So I would also like to remind that 21st of September, we are going to have a day off. It's an announcement. So our show is not going to be aired 21st of September.
It's a national holiday.
Yeah, it's a national holiday.
And so...
It is 28th anniversary of independence of Armenia. And
applaud that one.
Yeah. Applause.
That's a birthday.
Yeah, that's a birthday. And
28 years old. I just always think it's funny that I live in a country that's younger than I am.
Younger and older at the same time.
Not a culture, but a country.
A country.
And this year, most of the events celebrating the independence of Armenia will be held in Gyumri. So this is special for the first time. Festive events are also planned in Yerevan and other regions of the country, but the main events are going to take place in Gyumri. So make sure you fix your cars and plan your trips and just get your butt and get to Gyumri because it's going to be fun. I bet it will. And also, you can call in tonight, 560-901. We'll be here to answer your questions. You can also call later during the show and ask your questions.
Call anytime during the show. Call before the show. Call after the show.
What was that number?
During the show. Call during the show. At some point, I'm thinking we should just all stop talking and just wait for someone to call in.
Yeah, dead air is the best way to get people excited.
Dead air.
But something's wrong with your radio. Fix it.
My microphone. Oh yeah,
something's wrong with your radio. Call us.
What was the number again?
560-901. Call, ask your questions, practice your English, communicate with us.
What's the prefix?
+374 10.
560.
So it's a landline.
560-901.
Also, watch us live on www.radiovon.fm is our website, and also our Facebook page, 3W, no, not 3W, Radiovon FM 103.1. And, of course, the Great American Weekend group, Facebook group.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're there. Come and watch if you're listening on the radio. If you're listening on the, if you're watching, whatever, call, listen, chat
So
with
what
us.
have you guys been up to
There are
this
three of
past
us,
week?
but we still get lonely sometimes. What have I been up to this week?
I love, it was
She's
good,
just
a
totally
beautiful.
changed. I was like, I don't know.
Steve is like confessing
I'm
a
just going.
solemn, deep thought of like loneliness and depression. You're like, so what have you guys up been to this week?
Weddings.
Yeah,
Weddings, yeah. It is wedding season, apparently.
A lot of weddings in September. A fruitful, prosperous season. The fall. What about you, Hasfa?
I have actually, speaking of prosperous and prosperous autumn and fall, I just today went apple picking at dacha that my family owns, and
the evidence of it is the apples at the Radio Van kitchen table.
Yeah, and what I've noticed that's really interesting about the culture here in Armenia is that there is such a connection to the concept of having a family orchard.
Yeah.
Where people can go to pick fruits that they can either dry or keep, and they can bottle and jar so that they can keep during the winter. And that even though people who live here in the capital city,
They do it.
they still have this quality of wanting to keep something for the winter to keep them
To
not
keep
to
them
starve
warm.
So
Well, yeah, and that's so funny because here they pickle everything.
yes,
You pickle everything.
or preserve with sugar, water, or sugar or salt. You're preserve.
Well, I mean,
whatever.
fruits you preserve, you make preserves,
We
but
do the
vegetables
tomato-
you pickle.
the
I know,
tomato
green
thing.
tomatoes,
Lecho.
pickled green tomatoes,
Well, not really
pickled carrots.
We do the red tomatoes with
it's-
peppers and with some onions. It goes good with some meat, and it's really good.
Okay,
for
what is
winter.
that called?
Lecho.
Lecho.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you have any views about preserving or pickling, please call us live on our line at +374-10-560-901. Alternatively, if you have any views about being patriotic or patriotism, whether it's you being from the United States or being Armenian, or being anti-patriotic, as in you don't believe that that's something that is conducive to bringing people together, please call us on that as well. We'll be talking about those topics today.
Call us anyway.
Call us.
So what is patriotism?
Oh boy, Steve, you've done it again.
Yeah.
We'll find that out
I'm gonna
after
an-
the break, I think. Now
Oh,
we're
I
ready
waited
for
just long enough to ask that question. We can go to a break and
cliff-
completely dodge it.
Think about it.
The
Think about
cliffhanger.
it,
The
guys.
cliffhanger.
And we've got, of course, some quotes about patriotism. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is the Great American Weekend with Hasfa QT, Master Steve.
And Ina MK.
Ooh.
So then I tell the bartender, no, you keep the change.
Guys, I don't get it.
Ina, it's an American thing.
Learn more about American humor on Great American Weekend.
Welcome back to Radio Vaughn. This is the Great American Weekend. And Ina,
Yes.
you've got some quotes for
of
us,
course,
right?
as always.
Let's get right to them.
Patriotic quotes.
I've got some good quotes in my hands.
Oh, nice. That's a reference to Martin Luther King's song, right?
He's got
Martin
the whole
Luther
world.
King's-
Is that no? Is that?
It's a Christian
No,
song.
it's a Christian song. Oh, that's right, about Jesus. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
almost the same.
Jesus, Martin Luther King, they're kind of like this. They're kind of on the same.
That was like, let's throw a whole bunch of stuff into a blender, whip it up, and then just that's where it's from.
You know, the best place for fake news and disinformation is right here on the Great American Weekend on Radio Bond 103.1. And now we're going to go for some real quotes, not fake quotes.
Let's do this. Let's go. So, patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it. Mark Twain says that.
I like that.
I
like that.
Especially the deserving part. Right?
But the question is, what's the difference between your country and your government?
Countries, the people.
Countries, the land. The governments, the regulations.
Yeah.
Because when
The
I was
rules.
living in North Carolina and we were building a stage and we were augering into the soil. And we were filling that place with, that hole with gravel, rocks, and cement. And at some point, the foreman said, that's good enough for government, which means that if they came to check and regulate what we were doing, they would be like, that's all right. But the country, that's a culture. That's a people. That's a land.
I like the accent.
That's not.
People. The people.
I would just like to let you know that is my impression of a North Carolina high country accent from the Marshall area in the eastern part of the state. Thank you very much. Applaud button.
Bravo. We have the applause button. We're overusing.
Are you saying we don't deserve the applause?
No, always. And we also deserve the next quote. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Who said that?
I think Jesus said that specifically about America.
Donald Trump.
Because Jesus was an American.
He could foresee the future. He could see America was going to be born. That was Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? Wait, say that again.
You want to hear that again?
Just the last part.
Okay. But where is it? I lost it. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity.
Okay, the important thing here is to know what is meant by God's people. Does that mean all people? Because there's the concept of the chosen people. I have very many Jewish friends who say that there's this concept of the idea of being the chosen people within the context of the Old Testament. And when Donald Trump is speaking about God's people, it's really important because if you say all people, then you feel like it's totally inclusive. But if you say God's people,
totally all inclusive.
that means all people to those who understand that word. Because there are so many other people who understand Yahweh or Allah or Astvaz or something else that is Bog.
Which is still God.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on, it depends on your theology.
We're going somewhere else, guys.
Okay.
It's
It depends
a
on your
really
theology.
deep and long conversation, I think. I think we should move to our next one.
Whoa. Content and depth? No. No.
Theology? Whoa, wait. You don't talk about religion in politics.
I was interested to hear.
Here, catch this one because this is a nice transition to this next quote. Patriotism is a religion, the egg from which wars are hatched, says Guy de
Maupassant. Yeah.
Patriotism is the religion.
Is a religion.
The
egg from which wars are hatched.
What do you guys think?
USA.
Not really.
I think that
no.
so I was just saying while we were off air that I was thinking on the way here that there has been $6 trillion spent since 9/11 in the United States on wars
Against
that outward secret wars secret plans.
Wait a second. If there's secret wars, how do you know how much money's been spent on them?
Because he has connections.
Well, actually, because of the amount spent is always
You've
reported.
been talking to the NSA. They've been giving you inside information, haven't they?
So I was just reading an article last night about a new book printed by Edward Snowden and his memoirs, and he was talking about how the reason why he became a whistleblower is because he didn't believe that there was any justified cause for the cooperation of Yahoo, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Sky, for all these communications and internet companies with the United States government, with or without their understanding, to create an entire worldwide person-by-person catalog of what their everyday is like. And he didn't believe in, Edward Snowden, he was saying that he didn't believe in the secret wars that were being conducted.
Wait, but I want to go back one step. Look,
You
whether
cannot
the US
go
government,
anywhere
no.
because we're going on a break.
Already?
Yes.
Oh my God! Just when it gets fun.
It always happens. But we'll be back and continue with the quotes, I promise, because I've got some cool ones.
Oh, we've got some music this
Yes.
break, right? What do we got?
Break, and afterwards, Arto Tunçboyaciyan, Çakatagiş, Fate. So, and I have a question about faith to ask to Arto. So stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend. We're gonna welcome Arto Tunçboyaciyan later during the show. Don't go anywhere.
Well, a little under an hour from now, right?
Yeah, and also call in 560901. We're here to help you practice your English and communicate with us.
Stay diverse.
Yep.
Hey, what kind of fixins do you like on your hot dog?
Fixins? Yeah, relish, onions, mustard, ketchup, condiments.
No, not that.
Oh, fixins. I love chili dogs.
Learn about American cuisine on the Great American Weekend.
Yes, we're back enjoying Arto Tunçboyaciyan before he appears in the studio live.
Live and
Before
direct.
he appears, just like his
Magically.
music, it'll just be magic.
Yeah,
and
the
he'll just-
atmosphere, everything, we're ready.
So, should we continue with the
Yeah, let's do it.
with the quotes?
Patriotism consists not in waving the flag, but in striving that our country shall be righteous as well as strong. James Bryce.
I'd like to make an amendment to that one.
Oh, and I was going to say I like that one, which
I
is
just
probably why you want to make an amendment.
no. It's interesting because it's just patriotism is not about waving the flag. It is about, like Donald Trump does, hugging and groping the flag.
I'd
How
also
do you
like
grope the?
Like this. Just kind of like bring your arm down.
I would say like maybe fondling. I don't
Okay,
know.
fondling. It's slightly less, has a slightly less negative connotation to it. So just for you non-English
I don't
speaking
know,
people
is
out
that
there,
less
fondling is kind of like there's like
groping and fondling. Both of them are just not
Negative.
things you want to be doing.
especially to a flag, and let alone like
Anyway,
Guys,
more
we've got
quotes.
a lot of good feedback regarding our guest, Arto, and one of them is Irene's comment. Irene, hello, and we want to read it out loud. He's the greatest guest you've ever had. Thank
Be
you, Irene.
careful, we haven't had him yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're going to have. And also, Irene was asking about Hasva. Irene was asking about Armenia radio jokes tonight. So she really enjoyed them. Thanks for that comment.
Irene, I want to say thank you so much for your appreciation of the Armenian radio jokes. It's a really interesting part of the Soviet history, and I'm glad to share it with you. And I'm glad that you appreciated the humor.
That segment is Hasva's copyright. Totally. His idea, his project.
Нет, it is a copyright of Soviet radio,
Oh, wow.
of Armenian radio. That is not true.
Okay, let's move
Fake
on
news.
with our quotes. A patriot must always be ready to defend his country against his government. Well, we had a thought kind of like that. Edward Abbey. The love of one's country is a splendid thing, but why should love stop at the border, says Pablo Casals.
That guy is obviously not American.
Love without boundaries.
Love without
without borders.
Oh, that's so romantic.
That's the ideal world.
Makes me want to shed a tear for all the refugees trying to come into America.
While Hasva shedding tears, let's move to the next quote. Men love their country not because it is great, but because it is their own. Seneca.
I like that.
It's always subjective.
I mean, it's like your kids.
Yeah.
You know.
Or parents.
Well, yeah, or parents. Yeah, I suppose. You know, your kids may not be the greatest people in the world, but you love them anyway because they're yours.
Yep.
If that's why men love their country,
And
then
your
why
parents, you
why
know,
why
they
do
may
women
not be the greatest people? in the
Men
world.
meaning people, I think.
I see.
Yeah. Well, now maybe it does just apply to men.
Ownership. Men and ownership. American dominance right back at you.
Patriotism is your conviction that this country is superior to all other countries because you were born in it, says George Bernard Shaw.
Now, this is worth speaking about. Can we do that?
Go for it.
You see, I always feel that there's a certain sense of exclusivity when it comes to patriotism. It's inclusive only insofar as you are within the group. As soon as you feel like there is another that is inside of your group, that sense of patriotism can coagulate and be divisive, essentially creating a divide between you, which is the sense of a core group of people surrounded by a belief in what that patriotic cause might be, and the other. And in this quote, I feel that the birthplace maybe might not have so much to do with how much patriotism you might have for that place, as much as the thinking that goes behind you feeling like you're part of a group that creates a certain sense of patriotism or loyalty.
Yeah, but I think another element to that is when you're patriotic, you end up creating the divide between us and them, or you and the other, based on your perception of what's best for your country. You know, if you agree with other people on what is the best thing for your country, then it's us. The them comes in when it's what they're thinking is not in the best interest of the country, in my opinion, and then it starts to divide.
And I have this last quote, which would be a good addition to what you just said, is ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, says John F. Kennedy.
Oh, I was going to say, don't tell. Let's have people guess and write in, because that is a very, very famous quote.
Yeah, very famous.
And it's
very
funny
popular
because
quote.
it's ask not what you can do or what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And in the second half of the 20th century, ironically, JFK is one of the presidents that created more like social welfare programs where the government was helping people than any other president, or at least that's what I've heard.
It's
So
all
it's kind of
mutual
an
at the
it's
end
kind
of
of
the
an
day.
irony.
And you know, it's interesting because you think that there's a paradox, whereas I feel like when there are those social welfare programs, more people feel indebted to the nation that gives to them than they would to a nation that takes from them in terms of taxes. And yeah,
And you wonder why all the multinational corporations are pulling out of the United States to not pay taxes.
You unpatriotic corporations, come on.
No, but you just explained it. Why should they feel any attachment to America if all America is doing is taking from them?
Yeah, well, I mean, and the people as well, the people that make up the corporations as well. And this is what it comes down to.
Dear listeners, if you agree or disagree, call in 560-901.
You made the Aristotle quote disappear, and I really liked that one.
Oh.
It's not always the same thing. Being a good person
man and
being a good citizen.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great quote.
It is.
Yeah.
So be good citizens for your country, and your country will love you back. And now
sometimes.
I think we're done with the quotes, and I think it's the best time for us to discuss some historical moments which happened in the United States. 9/11.
Well, I mean, yeah. Let's lead into that really quick though. With why is our theme patriotism?
Yes, of course.
Because it's not an official holiday, so it's not a holiday. It's not a federal holiday. It's not a day where schools are closed and businesses are closed. But
nor is it the Patriots Day, New England Patriots Day.
No, it isn't that either. Thank God, I wouldn't celebrate that. New England Patriots, jeez, they're just as bad as the New York Yankees.
I don't like baseball, so I'll let you have that one.
Look, the Twins, Minnesota Twins, might end up playing the Yankees in the playoffs this year yet again, and I'm all for the Twins. But no, so September 11th has been kind of unofficially declared Patriots Day. And of course, the reason for September 11th would be what Ina was getting to, the attacks on the United States, the terror attacks of September 11th, 2001.
I was there in New York, in Brooklyn. I was going to school at Pratt Institute when I saw in the distance the black billowing clouds kind of rising from the sky. And I remember walking to school in the morning to my university classes and asking a security guard, what's with the line of black smoke? And they said an airplane crashed into the World Trade Center. And I was like, oh, it must be like a small propeller plane that had a crash. Yeah. And I remember going to school around 9 a.m. when class started and seeing no one there. And then going down to the cafeteria and watching everything happening live on the news. And then going up to the roof to see the second building collapse. And then I remember distinctly my professor said to the entire classroom, Professor William Saylor, he was like a sage, almost like a Socratic professor who was teaching us to think for ourselves and not to continually look to professors as if they're their extension of their fathers or their mothers. And he said that this attack would change the entire planet, the entire world for the next 10 years. And I think one of the major changes, which we spoke about a little earlier, was under the Patriot Act, ironically titled the Patriot Act, which was passed after 9/11, which gave the United States the right to surveil its own citizens within the country. It kind of opened the gateway for this new era of digital surveillance and following all of the citizens of the United States, first without the country, from without the country, then within the country. And these were things that we discussed a little earlier that Edward Snowden had spoken about in an article recently published only yesterday in The Guardian, where he was talking about his book and his memoir, and also the reasons of why he went into becoming a whistleblower, because of his beliefs of why there needs to be some sort of regulation of how much the United States government can, without disclosing, collect information on their citizens. So one of the things that I would say really changed the face of what it's like to be an American citizen, at least from the perspective of your everyday privacy, is that you have kind of full awareness now that everything that you do is being watched and collected.
Yeah. I think you're exaggerating a little bit.
I could be, but we don't know.
It could be.
I wrote a letter to the NSA once asking them. I did. Did I tell you?
We can neither confirm nor deny.
Yes, the existence. Yes. Yeah, sorry, I repeated myself. Yeah, so
I think that's a flashback to episode 1. Isn't it?
yes.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, were you in the United States when it all happened? Because I was.
Yeah. So where were you?
That was my exchange student year.
Wow.
And I was in Indiana, and actually I was planning to make a trip to New York. And I remember we had a special service at church that night, praying for America and for people who suffered, for their families. And I couldn't actually believe this was going on. I had this feeling that this could not happen to America because, you know, all the movies and all the stereotypes you get from the American movies is that all the problems should be solved and it would be a happy ending, and that I couldn't really realize that this thing was going on with America. And then later, when my parents here in Yerevan were really in a panic, they called me and they asked me not to leave anywhere. they asked me to stay in Indiana. So that's what I did. My trip to New York was canceled, and I never got to see it.
So you've still never been to New York?
No.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of a fatal thing for me as well, because I didn't get to see New York. And also
New York still wants to see you.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully I'll go back there to the United States someday and get to see things, because when you're 16 in America, it's totally different when you're already an adult.
Definitely.
And
I went down to the, when I was there, I went down to the site the second night. I mean, the night, not the first night, but the second night, I went down there with a group of friends just to see what the site looked like, to get as close as possible out of curiosity. And it was really like, I mean, you know, when you say about like American movies with a happy ending, this was almost the scene out of a movie.
Yeah.
All of the financial district was totally dark. All the floor was ash. All of the financial papers that you could imagine from the World Trade Center scattered all over the floor. And the only light was the beaming light of all the National Guard workers that had rushed down there to start cleaning and to start taking out and saving whoever they could save, the firefighters from New York City who are still just recently got money and funds for all the lung problems that they've had for what they...
Well, they recently refunded that program.
Yes.
Yeah, because it had run out of money sooner than was expected.
Yes, refunded. Thank you for correcting me. So yeah, we saw all that together, and it was really challenging because no one knew what to do. No one thought this was possible. And one of the most beautiful things, and I think this is what speaks to patriotism, is that for anyone who's been to New York, New Yorkers are not really the most friendly people. They can sometimes be
Really?
rude. Yeah, they can sometimes be really rude. Even if you're from like a longtime New Yorker, it's just kind of like, who are you and why are you speaking to me? You know, like that kind of attitude. And the day before 9/11, on 9/10, if you were to ask someone, "Hey, how are you doing?" on the street, they would probably have some type of answer that would make it feel like, "Who are you and why are you speaking to me?" But on 9/12, if you spoke to anyone and said, "Hey, are you okay? Is everything all right with you? Is your family okay?" People would ask you the same. People would look at you the same. And I think this is the true quality of patriotism. It's a human bond that's not necessarily by any type of ideology or any birthplace, really, because America is founded on immigrants coming from somewhere else. It's a human bond with one another, and a mutual care and a mutual respect. And I think sometimes as Americans, we need to remind ourselves about that, because what you see in the theater of politics is not what the country is founded on.
Oh, definitely not. No. At least not anymore.
That's very well put. I like it. I like the way you defined patriotism. Thank you. What about you?
Where were you?
Where were you? Where were you?
I was here in Armenia. I had just moved here a few months earlier, and I remember coming back to the apartment with my wife, and we showed up with this plumber who was going to be fixing the tank, the water tank in our bathroom. So, we show him into the bathroom and he gets to work, and then I go over and I turn on the TV, and the only English language station we had was CNN.
Yeah.
We turn it on and they're showing, it had just happened. The first tower had just gotten hit when I turned on the TV, and I looked, and I think it was Aaron Brown's voice. This is a horrible accident. A plane has just crashed into one of the World Trade Center towers, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that's not an accident. There's no way. There is no way. And then when it came through that it was a jetliner, like a passenger jet, I'm like, oh, there is no way that is an accident. There is no way. Crystal clear sky, Yeah. And then I was sitting there watching, just shocked, okay, when the second plane hit. And the commentator on scene, oh no, this is another horrible accident, and I'm like, no way. I don't know what's going on, but this is not an accident. You don't get an airliner crashing into a building by accident on a clear day. There's no way. And then two of them into two different buildings. No, this was, and I was so upset. I was like, no, this cannot be an accident. I don't know what's behind this, but yeah, and I just sat there. I watched TV for probably 8 hours straight, just sat there watching, just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And then the news came in about the Pentagon and the other plane that the passengers, crashed into a field, and it was numbing. Because I had recently moved out of the country. And so it was just a very strange, but, Armenians were, like you said, in New York, people would just walk up to you and say, are you okay? Geez, I don't think I could go out for the next couple of weeks without a stranger walking up to me and asking, are you okay? Is your family okay? Is everybody okay? And I found it, one, really touching, and two, also confusing, because, and then I would start to say, well, I'm from Minneapolis, but the conception that people around the world had of that attack was everybody was personally affected. And fortunately, I wasn't. Having not lived in New York at that point, I ended up moving to New York a few years later in 2000, a couple of years later in 2003. But yeah, it was just it was really a strange time. And especially to be abroad. It was just odd to see the way that the world was reacting, to see it was very interesting.
I can only imagine what it's like to be outside. Inside, it was like it was a military. It was kind of like what is the word in English where the military kind of takes over an area? There's a specific phrase for this. It's kind of like
what are you talking about? Martial law.
Martial law.
Yeah.
It was almost like martial law inside of New York, because everyone was so shocked worldwide, and in New York it was lockdown with soldiers at every tunnel entrance, every metro entrance, every bridge crossing that had guns that were the size of their spines. It was hyper security until the Patriot Act came through, and then everyone was being taken care of, digitally. Like there's this. There's a really interesting subsequent events that happened after 9/11 that, like rebuilding America's defense. There's a defense document that spoke about a new Pearl Harbor that could create 2 theater wars that would create the impetus to rebuild America's defenses, that was used by Donald Rumsfeld and signed by Donald Rumsfeld and other people that were in the higher ranks of the military at the time. And it created the impetus for the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War. And it named specifically North Korea and Iran at that time, which is really interesting because it kind of laid down the entire narrative and the framework for how to engage in terms militaristically for the next 10 years plus. Now we're at 18 years.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it was strange because that was the first thing that really shocked us out of thinking that
militarily, is that the right word?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that we could all just kind of get along as a world community. The Cold War had ended. Russia hadn't started kind of rising again out of the ashes of the Soviet Union, and so this was you're right. It was an impetus for the United States to start investing in its military again because it gave people I think it showed them the reality that just because we don't have another superpower doesn't mean that we're all safe and everything is okay.
Well, unfortunately, people unite during tragedy. And sometimes we take things like this as a sign as a wake up call.
We need aliens to attack this planet, so we all unite.
And now
I don't know. I might side with the aliens. What do you guys think of that?
It's like, yeah, guys, listen, you guys come in.
We just got
take these guys out. I'm with you.
I have an information that our guest has arrived
to
our station, so we're gonna go and enjoy a little bit his company. And you guys stay tuned, and I'll look forward to welcoming here in the studio in a bit, like 10.
In about 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, 10 past 8. We're going to enjoy, right after the break, another song by Arto Tunçboyaciyan, Platon. Okay.
I'm so excited to see Arto, and if you are as excited, please call us live on the radio. If you have any questions for Arto, the phone number is +374. If you're out of the country, it's +374 10. If you're in country, 560-901. That's 560-901.
Thank you. Stay tuned.
What's the best word in American English?
My all-time favorite word is but I usually refer to it as lovemaking.
Become more fluent in American English and slang.
We're back in the studio, excited because our guest is already here, and we have another 10 minutes, and then we'll be ready to welcome Arto Tunçboyaciyan here in our studio.
So excited to have Arto.
So how are we going to kill the time? Are we just going to sit here and wait for people to call in?
I think we should.
I think we should do that sometime.
What did we leave off on? I think we talked about how the quality of patriotism, true patriotism. Oh my God, I can't even speak anymore. True patriotism being the human to human bond and connection, and how.
Okay, but then how is that different from just humanity in general? Just a human. I mean, then what's the difference between patriotism and, what some people would call like the human family?
I'm so glad that you asked that, Steve.
Are you guys interviewing each other?
No, because look, for example, there's this concept of, let's say, the isms, yeah? How do you become a good feminist? Yeah? It's being a good humanist. How do you become a good patriot? You can't say patriotist, but patriot. It's being a good person. And I think the more we are connected to one another, the more we are more in line with patriotism, we're more in line with feminism, we're more in line with the isms that have a certain sense of cultural value. And the more we work on ourselves as people for ourselves, the better that we become and more connected to the people in the community around us. And that, by definition, I see as being a good patriot is that you care for your fellow brother, which has theological undertones.
What might be the difference between patriotism and nationalism?
Well, Now, that's a good question too, Steve.
And philanthropy.
Philanthropy?
Philanthropy.
I'm a good philanthropist.
I'd be a great philanthropist if I had a few $1 million.
A few $1 million. Yeah, well, I mean, why did you mention philanthropy?
Because I have I've got an article about that.
We'll save that for some other time. I also have slang ready for today, but I don't think we're going to get to it now, are we?
Why not?
Should we
Let's
do that?
do
No,
it.
because we're talking about. Is this interesting? Somebody call in.
Someone tell
Somebody
us if
call
they're
in
interested
and
in what
tell
we're
us whether
saying.
you're interested in.
560901.
Someone just tell us if you like what you're listening
let's
to.
put this up for a vote. Should we do the slang or should we keep talking about patriotism?
You know, I think we should shoot the breeze on patriotism for a while, mix it up and shake it up with some slang.
Okay.
And then get a shakedown on get a shake up on the lowdown on what patriotism means. We're
mixing
just
up those slang terms.
It's a mashup of slang.
Mashing those metaphors.
Yeah, exactly. Aphorism mashup. My mother once told me, don't count your chickens before you make an omelet.
Chickens or eggs?
Well, don't. It's don't.
This is my. I think this is a segment that I should probably make, but it's really it's like the antithesis of what the show's intention is.
Well, because you've been doing those on Facebook.
Oh
for
God,
quite
I
a
love
while.
them. It's so fantastic because my parents always gave me this really great advice that made no sense but sounded like it did because it was a combination. Because there was one saying that says you need to break a few eggs to make an omelet, which means. It's got to hurt.
Wise.
It's got to hurt before it gets better, kind of thing. You know, no pain, no gain. That's another kind of American aphorism. But there's another saying that says, "Don't count your eggs before they hatch," or "Don't count your chickens before they hatch." Rather,
when it's white, it's all right.
Don't count your eggs before they hatch because then you'll actually have to count something. Once they hatch, you won't have any eggs anymore, and you won't be able to. You won't have to count.
It's just a saying about saving some time. And
That's lazy man's
Lazy
advice.
man's
That's lazy man's
advice.
advice. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. Count them afterwards, because then it's just zero.
Or just don't
you can
count
see
your
the
eggs.
yolks still.
just don't count your eggs.
Well, no. If they hatch, then you don't have it. You have chickens.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right.
But what was it? What was the? Oh yeah, the aphorism mashup is, don't count your chickens before you make an omelet.
Out of the chickens.
It's like I could hear my father just before I go to school. It's like, I must just remember before you go to school, don't count your chickens before you make an omelet.
Don't count
all
your
right,
chickens before you make the harissa.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or no, actually, it would be don't count your eggs before you make the harissa.
Or the shakshuka. Shakshuka. Yeah, that's the Armenify. Yes. Don't count your chickens before you make the shakshuka.
Okay, I won't.
All right, Dad.
Master Steve.
And now we know what patriotism truly is and means.
It's bonding together with humor. The best defense is always an offense with humor. Knowing how to tickle the funny bone or break it.
The best definition by Hasba and Master Steve.
If you want us to go someplace, don't plan on it.
Don't. Go count your chickens.
If you want us to go someplace, kick us out.
Okay, do we have some room for some phrases, Master Steve? Because we still have 5 minutes.
Okay, then now that we're evidently killing time.
Oh, and you're saying that doing slang is just killing time?
No, just the way that it was.
This is just what we
pitched.
do when we don't have anything else to do, and we just have to kill some time.
I love your slang segment. I love your slang segment, Steve.
So I prepared for today on the idea of patriotism and on the sort of divisiveness of American politics these days. So there are a lot of kind of insults that we throw around in American discourse today that really are there to insult your political opponent and at the same time a big way of insulting them is by questioning their patriotism, right? So these are not all exactly in that vein, not all directly related to patriotism, but they all are kind of insults that people hurl at each other when it comes to political debates and discussion in the U.S. So you can call someone a blowhard.
Blowhard?
That sounds.
He's
that
a real.
sounds
He's a real.
weird.
Oh, he's just a blowhard.
That's tricky.
Meaning, like, you don't have to listen to him, right? Don't listen to that person. They are pompous. They are full of themselves. They think very highly of themselves, and they just think everybody should listen to them and do what they say.
That's what blowhard means. I always had a completely
It's different than blow harder. That's something different.
Since we don't have this sound
That's
effect.
what you say
Excuse
when
me?
you're playing that game with the straws and the cotton balls.
Blow harder.
Yeah.
But
A really good one these days is to call somebody a commie.
Commie?
Yeah, a commie. A communist or a socialist. A socialist.
they're
and
just a socialist. Don't listen to anything they have to say.
Yeah. I mean, these things have real definitions, right? I mean, a communist is someone who believes in the communist ideology, most famously put forward by Karl Marx, yada, 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 yada. Socialism
And
is,
Engels.
Marx and Engels, yes.
Angles?
Engels.
Triangles?
Engels. The other guy's last name, the one that everybody forgets about.
I know. Marx Engels.
Yes.
Engels.
Engels.
There is something about being a communist or a socialist, but these days, and there's anybody who wants to increase or create government programs that gives stuff to people, paying for everybody's education, all this kind of stuff. They're these days, especially by people on the right, labeled a communist. But now it's also just become, because of the divisiveness, it's also just become a label that you throw at somebody who you disagree with. I mean, it almost doesn't have meaning anymore. Kind of like the label fascist. You just kind of, I don't agree with you. You're a fascist.
I most often hear socialism being said by right-wing pundits that are kind of trying to get people riled up. They're like, that say something to the effect of, they want to take your money, they want to bring up your taxes, they want to take that and they want to give it to other people with services with your own hard-earned money.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
a lot of it's fear-mongering, but that's what the liberals do with fascism.
and that's what advertisements does to
not as
our
often.
show. The advertisement is knocking on the heavens
should we
door.
let it
and
in?
we
Do they
read-
pay
Let's
us?
lock
Do
the
they
door.
actually pay us these advertisements? They pay us.
Let's lock the door.
Let's
Not
lock the
you.
No,
Does anybody pay
I'm
you?
out. I'm
Not
out.
you
Does anybody pay
personally.
you?
No.
Okay, guys,
Let's
get
lock
ready.
the door, turn off the lights, and pretend we're not home.
We're home.
Come on,
Of course,
advertisements.
we're home because
Somebody's
we
knocking.
are
Let's
going
pretend
to
we're not home.
welcome
Maybe they'll go
Arto-
away.
Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Right after the break in our studio. Stay tuned.
Arto
Call in
Tunçboyaciyan.
560901. Ask your questions. Also write your questions in the comments. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
Call right.
I would never live in America.
Why not? Didn't you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, why not?
It was good, but it wasn't great.
Because you didn't know us when you were there.
Join Ina MK, Master Steve, and Hasva QT for a great American experience.
Every Saturday on the Great American Weekend.
Yes, we're back in the studio and we are here with our lovely guest, Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
Welcome.
Grammy-winning musician of Armenian descent.
It's a strum of success right
I
there.
want to
Ta-da.
I want to do some intro from Arto's bio, and then we will go from there. So, an avant-garde folk artist, singer, multi-instrumentalist. Tunçboyaciyan appeared on more than 200 records in Europe before arriving in the United States, where he went to work with jazz legends, including Chet Baker, Mark Johnson, Aldi Meola, and Joe Zawinul. As well as a semi-regular stint with Paul Winter and the Earth Band. The Grammy Arto received was Best New Age Album. Artocan, we're honored. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very
Welcome.
good.
How are you?
Okay. I went to Sevan today.
Yeah, we heard.
Early morning.
Tired?
Yes.
A bit?
Little bit. I'm more tired of people not responsible. They don't care about the nature. When you play game with nature, like you are playing game with your health.
Of course.
Because it's nature for me. It's the menu of our body. We have to pay attention. Hopefully, maybe people after this they think about before they throw those plastic bottles or plastic bags and stuff. Especially, throwing fruits after you eat, it's okay for the soil,
because it rots.
But the plastic stuff, but unfortunately we're becoming more like thinking like plastic,
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I don't like that, but I like the way that you put it. You
I know.
really, yeah.
What do you mean?
I've always thought, what do we do? Do we not buy plastic anymore, or do we not throw it out in the garbage? Because even though it might not, let's say people get smart and they don't throw it in Sevan anymore, it still goes somewhere.
Exactly. But we have to be responsible to know how to use our own synthetic creativity. Because unfortunately, like we created paper, like a toilet paper too. There's many papers, but one of the papers we put numbers and pictures and we give value, and now we kill each other what we created. Money.
Ayo.
That's like, for me, it's very, very strange we don't understand, we are the one creating garbage. Not just the product or stuff, with mentally too. We are really forcing the people to follow the heroes and stuff,
Yeah.
Those days are over. Maybe 200 years ago it was okay, but today for me, right now communication is so fast. Where is this biggest shopping mall? On your phone. There is no building anymore. That's the biggest shopping mall, So kids like 10 years old, they have so much information, but unfortunately they don't have experience about those information. So like the people like us, maybe we can help them to create confidence than their own creativity. For me, it's more important and more exciting to know how other people see in the life, not just like one person and follow them, and when that person die, nobody know what to do. Those days is gone.
There was a time in my life where I spent 1 month in the Colorado mountains, camping without a fire and leaving no trace.
Yeah, exactly.
I fasted for 21 days without eating food, and this was probably the most that I felt connected to nature in my lifetime, that 1 month. Is there a specific time in your life where you felt most connected to nature in the way that you were living?
I born that way, let's say, not for ego. That was the opportunity for life we have to have respect for nature. But not just the soil, overall, human nature too, Like I don't have hate in me, I don't have no enemy, no matter what happened for my grandparents or my family, my father, mother. We never have hate towards Turk or anything, We just wanted the people to understand we always have chance for tomorrow. Yes, we are living today. Yes, yesterday is a good example. But there is only chance we have for we can fix tomorrow. Even maybe you hear April 24 for me is one of the happiest day in my life.
Yeah, because we survived.
Yeah, no matter what happened,
We are here.
I'm still surviving every time. But because for me, genocide is not one day. Genocide is me, my life. You know, my grandparents, my father. So next neighbor, two sisters, in Easter time, how they cut their throats. You know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we misunderstand. It's not about just Armenians, overall human sickness, you know. It's not only between Armenian and Turkish happening, it's all everywhere. That's why I give for the Turkish people who did this type of stuff, let them think about, because for me it's the most important day is April 25. As a human being, we are where we are going, you know.
Now we have a little break, and we will...
With a break or break?
A break. And then we will enjoy Garmister Tune, and we will come back with more questions for you, Artojan. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend, and you can call in 560901. Have the exclusive chance to ask questions to this guy. We're here till 9 p.m.
Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
We're back in the studio with our lovely guest, Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
Opa.
and attention, Opa. I have a book here in my hands right now. The title of it is 200 Thoughts, 200 Million Meanings Outside Looking In. And right now, what's going to happen? I'm going to just open
wait a second. That's... Okay, that's the title of the book.
Yeah.
But I think the more important thing is...
There are 200 thoughts written by...
Who's the author?
The author, of course, is our guest.
Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
Oh,
Duh. That's obvious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little slow, aren't I?
Oh, yeah.
And right now I'm going to pick a random page and read it out loud. And that will be my message for the rest of this month. Okay.
Month?
Wow.
Okay.
There's a time commitment here.
Drums. Ta-da-da. Oh, we have a caller.
We have a caller live.
We have a caller live.
It's getting more exciting.
Hello?
People waiting now.
Hello?
What's he going to
May I join your conversation, please?
Oh, is this Irene? Hello.
Hello, Irene.
Hello,
It's
Irene.
Robert.
How are you doing?
Welcome to the Great American Weekend.
I'm really happy to join you.
We missed your voice. Thanks for calling in.
So did I.
And
You know, actually knowing that you are hosting my favorite Armenian musician today,
Oh my God.
I couldn't help myself from calling you. I'm so exciting right now. I'm freezing.
oh, good
It's
for
so
you.
fantastic to hear your voice, Irene. Thank you for calling in. What would you like to ask our very special guest, your favorite artist?
You are hosting a musician whose music makes me feel Armenian, makes me think in Armenian, and whose music makes me see the world in Armenian. And whenever I want to clean my heart and my soul, either I read William Saroyan or I listen to Arto Tunçboyaciyan.
Whoa.
And as this evening is very special for me because of your guest, I wouldn't like to talk about the negative sides of Armenian music we are having nowadays. But I'd love to ask him a question. I'm really sure that we've got many talented musicians and artists, but unfortunately, we do not have typical Armenian pop music, typical Armenian rock music, or typical other Armenian genre of music. How do you appreciate our present musical situation, and what do you think we are going to have in the future?
Thank you, Irene.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Irene, so much for that question.
And
So the question was, Arto, considering that we don't have typical Armenian rock music, typical Armenian pop music, how do you see the current musical scene, Armenian current musical scene, and what we can look forward to in terms of Armenian music in the future?
But what is typical? Let's start from that. Like for me, example. Today,
Tash. That's the typical.
No.
No.
Well, so what is the typical?
What is? Yeah, that's a good question.
What is it typical 300 years ago or 300 years later?
Yeah.
For me, it's the being Armenian who have curiosity, who have clean heart, conscience, and who is proud with his own creativity to serve humanity for something positive to introduce. For me, this is typical Armenian. But example, yes, there is a problems, but we can solvable problem. We can solve it. We cannot only blame for the young kids why they're not introducing. Maybe we should pay attention. Maybe there is no platform for them to be themselves. Also, as a culture, we not just Armenian, many cultures, they always want to freeze how it's supposed to be. But example for me, if Sayat Nova today was surviving, I think he will say something about iPhone, iPad, But it's nothing wrong with that, Aranz iPhone,
But you said without.
Yeah. Because this is right now, it's a reality.
He understands Armenian.
But with a good, positive, I only pay attention for two things. Whatever I am sharing with the people, I pay attention to not harm humanity or nature. Other than that, we have to accept it. The young kids, that's why, like example, I was just saying, like there is no that leader following left anymore. That's why I'm trying to help I'm encouraging the young kids to have confidence for their creativity. So the way they imagining about life, so I will see something new too. Instead of me expecting to the next generation to follow what I do. No, they should follow their life, the way they imagining. Yes, it's true. Unbelievable performing since 1998. It changed. But most important thing we forgetting, if you don't imagine, doesn't matter physical performing. Sooner or later, I rather have person know how to imagine, little bit physical, but physical we can practice and bring it better performing. But without imagination, you become naphthalene,
And let's not forget about my book message. Okay, let's get back to it.
Let's get back to that. I think we have just enough time to do that before the break, right?
We won't have the break.
We won't have the break. We're going to break. We're going to break the rules.
Yeah,
because we've got such a good guest.
Yeah,
we're just going to keep pushing on.
So I need the anticipation drums.
Oh, the anticipation.
So I have two messages. Which one should I read?
Both of them.
Okay. I didn't go to school for education because every human being is a university for me. Wow. A good one. And the other one, I gave my vote for human being and humanity. I think this fits perfectly our theme today.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Exactly. For me, example, let's say like some people see me as a leader, like example, but every leaders have students, right? But it's true leader for me, it should be student for everybody. Means like you're experiencing, that experience you're sharing constantly you should be responsible, beware what's going on, so you can give right information. For me, it's very easy to blame, which is like Armenians kind of like very professional about that. You know?
It's a
Finding
national.
the blame,
It's
you
at
know?
the level of national
I'm a
pastime.
professional.
Americans have baseball.
Armenians have professional blaming as a sport.
A
But
professional blaming team.
No, that's your fault.
But it's very important to like this talent, this opportunity to how to come together and right way to introduce, so we can have concept. We can introduce, but like when people say Yerevan, they should remember about this concept. Like example, like even in your radio, you can do so many things to we can introduce to the whole over the world our own way of. We can learn other experiences, but we don't have to copy. You know, when you copy, you know, example like why I call myself avant-garde folk musician. It gives me freedom. There's no. It means like you yourself.
No borders.
No jacket, no instrument, whatever you want. But when you say jazz, it's right away directing you to America, you know, because it's created there. It's not the form we speak in. Form become business, you know. But the meaning of jazz, I connect with those people because they come from this music come from the people hate you because of your identity. That's how I grew up in Turkey. I'm sure like many people, you know, for me it's like, yes, intellectual side of the blues, jazz, but it's a lifestyle. It's not just a form. If you get into form, you have to freeze, which is like in 90s, they tried to bring back with Wynton Marsalis and all this, they put a jacket back again, you know. But every time my kids, when they were little, they were hearing those music, they were saying old music. But when they were hearing 1945, Louis Jordan example, they were saying, wow, it's cool, because it was in that time. It was something. That's why I kind of give up little bit in America to live here, come here to survive, because America started repeating itself first time. Because before it was every century like they introduced something, it was not exist. But I am trying to encourage people here to not be afraid to something doesn't exist to introduce. But for that, they need good platform to keep playing or performing, whatever it is, anything, to come to that mentality. I'm only sharing this with people, be able to them to think and watch and listen, because everything you find that way. That's why, like the thing you open, it says that life is one great book, except to you. You can go play Nardi, or you can read it about life. And who reads, his imagination is getting wider and wider, and sooner or later they find, then we can say we don't have anything to introduce humanity other than our history.
Ourselves.
You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, the
Arto Can.
connection between, or the difference between just learning and repeating and sort of an apprenticeship where you learn and your master learns from you, and when you part, you both go on doing different things than you would have before.
Yeah, like example, education for me is supposed to be information centered. It's not supposed to be given direction, you know? If it's like that, academical education, it's okay. Like for me, like our type of cultures, like what little bit might bother me, is we always proud with past. Yes, we all do. But, you know, we cannot live in past. We are living today. We can do something for tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, the past is important, but it has to give you material. It has to give you material with which to create something new.
But I'm not afraid that something is not working today to take out that, you know. But a lot of people, it's not only Armenians, you know. It's like same thing. Like why they have to bring the jazz in 90s back how it's supposed to be. Example, I was playing with Dancheri, a very small club, like really like 25, 20, $30 type of thing. Ed Blackwell, Dancheri, and me. All of a sudden, Atlantic Company came with, you know, like bags and things. They want him and Ornette Coleman to merge together to start like the things they did before. They opened the bag. It was $45,000 those days. Like you can buy a house right away, you know. And he just pushed the money. He say, oh, I cannot say here F you, you know. He say,
yes,
I'm
you
not
can.
gonna.
You can say fuck you. You can say that.
Oh, you did. You did. I not me.
He said that.
But then he turned me. He asked me like $10. I said, Don, you have $10 so we can get something, you know, something. I'm like, Don, you know what I mean? This $10. I'm not going to go back what I played before, you know.
Arto Can, well, we are unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time left for you. I mean, we have 8 more minutes. Don't panic. Don't look at me like that.
I want to speak something very important for all of us.
Can we do
involved.
that? Yeah, can we do that after we ask you to do something? Because we know that you can play on anything, and we've seen that.
even that's for to make people to understand how much close is the music. Because it's not about the instrument, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put it border on people to say, oh, especially, you know, God give you talent, and then there is no such a thing, you know. You pay attention, you find what is your talent is. You yourself already enough talent, you know.
Music is everywhere.
It is.
That makes me want to play. When you speak, you make me want to play.
Yeah, you can.
Can I play with you? Is that
no?
fun?
You can speak and I play. It will be like a hip hop.
Okay. Okay.
Esor aravot yotis kasi sevan zibil havakelu kuyrikcan. Bais mdazumem menk espanerovos pavumeng. Germanatin Mercedes alcun Huisunem albadas kanadutun uneng O sevan makur 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 sevan 1 radio 1 2 Madio 1.
Thank you.
But I really wanna speak. This is for me is very important because this is I think is one of the unique thing. Maybe we can do it here in one radio to International Visual Radio Festival. Means, let's say, like you guys connected, but it should start from here.
International Visual Radio Festival.
Yes. Like one radio should contact with offer for Denmark, England, France, and just imagine, let's say 10 countries this year, you guys doing festival, there is a space, people have screen, and they have headphone. So everybody in their country, everywhere. Like example, France played two songs. The other 9 countries watch it. Armenia played the other 9 countries. It will be like there's something we can introduce from Yerevan.
Building bridges.
Yeah, bravo. This communication is very important. Don't think about just radio, you know. Everything is possible because one idea can change everything. You know, like unfortunately, physically walk, Kyle, we did, but mentally it's a little bit behind. We gotta do mentally walk too.
Yeah. And I would like to mention that Arto came here in our studio, to our studio with 5 albums. 5 presents for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
More, but I don't. Ardak might be bring it more. I don't have original ones, but unfortunately we cannot print any more CD. For that, I offer here to make device from laser vinyl like a CD size. I offer to somebody to make here, but when you put it in, also the people who playing becomes hologram in your room. Hello,
Wow.
good people. Welcome to Radio 1. Today's guest, me, AMFM free directly from one radio, Apricot 3.
Dancing.
We spoke.
This is important, you know, to encourage the young kids to have confidence that on imagine. That's why, like all this, what do you call people have economically Dasil Masir Fushir, all these guys, you know, should pay attention to encourage the kids and create a platform for the creative
new
art
platforms.
center or something. I don't know, but I'm sure you guys, if you keep talking about this type of stuff, which is I'm very happy about this Radio 1, and also being English also is good because IO together. Yes.
Yes, together.
Together. Why I say together? Somebody listening from other country maybe wanted to be part of it, so he can feel together. We are calling them. We say this is your home too. Please come, and if you are offering something good for our culture and humanity, we learn something too.
We spoke earlier about nature, and I'm really curious, and I would like to ask you this question, if I may. If we look at planet Earth as one whole body, one organism, where would be the heart for you?
I think the planet is just not just the body, also heart itself, you know, because it's living everywhere. And evolution is one of the great things. You know, the people, that's why I say, if you can understand from your picture when you were five years ago, even now you're different, you know, means something keep going on. That's why I say to not afraid to write new songs about your folk today. Folk means folks, right? In English, people, right? But it's nothing wrong. Like, okay, 300 years ago, they left, and now we have archive. But 300 years later, what we offering? Same thing? No, we live in totally different lives. Those days, people living so quiet, they listening birds. Even you can look the folk instruments, most of them, you know, like you can understand how quiet it was their life, you know, because of things. But as soon as you put microphone, it doesn't mean you losing that. They live that time. I thank for them. Same as like a jazz musician, I thank for them. They share their life with us. They give honest information for us. You know, I mean, for me, avant-garde folk musician doesn't mean I hate jazz. No, this is exactly jazz. Jazz is renewing itself. You cannot freeze, you know. It's because it's come from life.
So to all the people who visit nature in Armenia and around the world, stop being unaware of the things and materials you bring with you. And to all the artists and musicians out there, do not be fearless. Be fearless in creating something new.
Only two things you have to pay attention to: not harm human being, or not harm, like Armenian jazz. How it sounds for you when you hear Armenian, or let me say Armenian Toyota. It's like, for me, it's Armenian jazz. It sounds like that.
Okay.
Why don't you play your thing and find your name? They find it themselves.
Arto,
It's
you have to
fantastic.
forgive us. We're very running short on time. We have to go
Yeah.
to our sponsors.
Time is everything.
Time is everything. Time is nothing.
What time is it?
Thank you once again for being
thank
here.
you guys.
Really, thank
And
you.
we're sure that nothing happens in vain, because maybe this is a good start for all your ideas and all your
I'm
projects
just sharing,
yet
you know,
to come.
and I'm waiting you guys to share some ideas so we can meet. When you are more than one, it's never going to be 100% what you want, but 100% one in center we can meet. It
Yes.
will be good for 100% for everybody.
Yes.
That you can do it with Radio One.
We can do it together with
Yes.
Arto, Radio One, unity, love, peace. Thank you once again, and thanks to Artak for joining us.
And happy birthday, Artak.
Yeah, happy birthday once again. And we're gonna have a break, and right after the break, we'll have our regular calendar of events. So don't go anywhere. Another 10 minutes. The Great American Weekend.
Վարչապետ Նիկոլ Փաշինյանը հեռախոսազրույց է ունեցել Ղազախստանի նախագահ Նուրսուլթան Նազարբաևի հետ.
Oh, could they just speak a little bit slower?
Don't worry. You can catch local news, events, and culture in English every Saturday on Great American Weekend.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend. We just had our special guest on for the night for an inspirational and aspirational
I'm really
interview.
hyper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like-
energizing.
You're hyper. I'm chill.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that was so calming and cool. That was.
It was
good.
both calming and exciting.
Yeah, my big takeaway was don't harm others, don't harm the planet, be fearless in your creativity in creating something new.
And fantasy.
And what was the not to do something? Not
You
to do.
started with the knots, and I think
Nuts.
yeah.
Yeah, just don't harm people.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
not harm people. Yeah, and be fearless. Yes.
We will keep this wisdom with us.
As we move
As we
into
move
our
into-
calendar of events,
Yes.
we'll start with the American Corner in Yerevan's events. We've got this new event every week that is replacing the debate club. It is Art in Conversation. Are you interested in art? Would you like to discuss the life and work of your favorite artists? Then join this new club with Jim Daly, Art in Conversation, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. This week, this week we've got Martiros Saryan and Georgia O'Keeffe.
Ooh.
Those are the two artists they'll be talking about.
Great lineup.
Please be informed that this club is for people with intermediate and advanced level English, but it does not require any knowledge or background in art.
There's no
Just
prerequisite.
an appreciation for art.
Cool.
Okay, the Reading Club. This is every Tuesday at 3 p.m. And this week they will read and discuss George Washington and the Cherry Tree. Again, an intermediate level of English is required for participation. Join that club if you want to expand your vocabulary and practice your listening and speaking skills.
And
Oh, and the debate club. I thought that the art
Still
was
there.
replacing the debate club because we didn't have it last week. But the Year of an American Quarter invites you to the debate club with Clark Long. The discussion will take place this Thursday at 1 p.m. This week's topic for discussion is homework beneficial?
yeah, I would. I love
We're not
that.
talking about whether you enjoy it or not. We're talking about whether it's beneficial.
No, it's not.
And now,
It is time for our favorite. Are you guys ready?
Yes, of course.
Are you ready? It is now time for our favorite segment of the end of the show. It is movies in English with a Russian accent, because all movies in Armenian English have Russian subtitles. These movies are at Kino Park from 14th to 18th of September, starting at 4:40 p.m. It, Chapter 2, a 2019 American supernatural horror film, and the sequel to the film 2017 film It It's both based on the 1987 novel by Stephen King, Great Recovery. Movies in English at Cinema Star, Rio Mall, September 16th through the 18th. Gilligya, Land of Lions at 2:40, 3:20, 4 and 4:40 p.m. A movie produced in Armenia with other American Armenian and other Armenian and also American and also other people.
And also other and more and
and so on and so on.
We are stumbling our way to the end of the show.
Movies in English at the Cinema Star, Dalma Mall, September the 18th. Gilligya, Land of Lions at 12:35, 1:30, 2 and 2:35 p.m. It, Chapter 2 at 5:40 p.m.
Thank you.
That is all for the English movies with the Russian accent segment for this evening.
Opera and
Thank
ballet.
you, and have a nice evening.
We've got
До свидания.
Tosca on September 15th at 7 p.m. We've got Pushkin and the Music on the 18th at 7 p.m. We've got Masquerade, the ballet, in 2 acts on September 20th at 7 p.m. We have Almost, an opera in 2 acts on September 25th at 7 p.m. And we've got the Komitas Liturgy concert in the theater's foyer on September 30th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Now let's move on to music. The State Jazz Orchestra of Armenia will present a unique jazz concert entitled Jazz Versions of Classical Music. The concert is scheduled for 15th September at 7 p.m. at the Hall of the Union of Architects of Armenia. And we have Vartanov Sepian Trio from USA at Ulikhanyan Club September 15th at 8:30 p.m. Sonnet Quintet at Ulikhanyan Club September 16th at 8:30 p.m. International Jazz Trio musicians Ara Yaralyan from Tallinn, bass, Vahagn Harapetyan Yerevan piano, and Karen Kocharyan from Boston, drums at Ulikhanyan Club September 17th at 8:30 p.m. Also, Arto Manukyan is here in Armenia. He will be performing with his group at Ulikhanyan Club September 18th at 8:30 p.m. Oh wow, capital cities. In Gyumri, Cebu with his team, with his band, will be in Gyumri September 21st at 9 p.m. And there will be also other concerts and events in Gyumri. So be careful, follow the news, and make sure you join this festive events. Double piano concert, Vahagn Harapetyan and Karen Grigoryan at Ulikhanyan Club September 24th at 8:30 p.m. Bambir presents Freedom is Expensive, FIX, an electronic power duo with cosmic guitar roars and moving grooves, September 15th from 8 p.m. at Mirzoyan Library.
So that's all we have for this patriotic and
episode
uplifting
of the Great American Weekend.
And
thank you for joining us, and thank you again to Arto, our incredible guest, Arto, and
so much fun.
We got to go.
Guys,
it's been fun. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks so much.
We will see you in 2 weeks here on Radio Van with the Great American Weekend.
Peace out.
Thanks for being here, for listening, for commenting, and also to Irene for calling in. We'll be back in 2 weeks because next week we have a day off, our official holiday, Independence Day of Armenia. With me in the studio was Hazva, QT, Master Steve,
and you are Ina MK.
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend, end of the weekend, and of course an awesome Friday night. Do not forget that in Kami Club there is an event, Kami Night event. So if you're
coming.
Yeah, it's a great event, so make sure you do not miss it.
Look, turn off the radio now and get your thoughts.
Yeah. Bye, guys.